And it's just Patrick's head.
Hey, everybody. So first one, we'll just kind of go through typical norms. HDA, spring break plans. I know what I'm doing, a whole bunch of nothing. Staying at home, trying to sleep. When Ruby lets me sleep in past, 5 a.m., but that'd be awesome if I could maybe sleep until, 6. Yeah, that's my plan. Do nothing and hang out.
I haven't cleaned since winter break, so I guess that's what I'll be doing, because,
Sweet, what time will you be over to my house?
Exactly. I mean, that's the only time I get to take care of my own problems and my own stuff is breaks.
I'm going to Florida.
Oh, you.
Stopping at the Jack Daniel's distillery on the way down to do a tour.
This is my face of jealousy.
So,
I love that tour. You get to do the maker's mark, like pour the wax and seal the bottle.
oh, that's Maker's
And-
Mark. We're going to Jack Daniel's.
No, Jack Daniels makes, or no, Jim Beam. Sorry, Jim Beam does maker's mark, doesn't?
No, Maker's
Or
Mark
no.
does Maker's Mark.
What's anyway?
Maker's
That's
Mark is its
that's
own
how much I
thing.
know alcohol. Apparently.
Knob Creek is Jim Beam, and you can dip
Oh, that's
there.
it. Yes, that's it. That's what I
You
made.
get-
That
you
part
can-
looks fun.
The Knob Creek, you can put your thumbprint in the wax.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I
Knob
did.
Creek.
And
That's
sign
Jim
the
Beam.
bottle. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we're doing Jack Daniel's.
Okay.
Maker's Mark, you could dip your own bottle too. But
I haven't been to Maker's Mark yet.
beautiful canvas.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody have any celebrations or anything? I talked about 36 of my 40 first years have signed up for Career Safe. It's not mean that 36 have completed it yet, but we at least have most people signed up. I've kind of felt like I've been nonstop sign up for Career Safe, but the biggest issue I'm running into is just people not being here repeatedly. And then I continue to push out the information and just hope that my goal is by spring break.
6 months later, I still have a couple kids that haven't signed up, and probably only 10% of my kids have completed it all. 6 months later, so good luck.
Yeah.
So I have 95% done. I know. I worked really, really hard on it. I have 2 that have not completed any modules, and one was gone for 38 days straight. And then the other is English as a second language, and I think that's the difficulty. And I really think that they should be allowed to be exempt, but I don't make the rules. And then
Well, if they're not going to give them a Spanish option,
they don't have
then
that.
then
that I
that
did-
should not. Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
And I would leave them off the list.
Yeah.
right. And then I have,
I'll write
I
that
think
note.
maybe 4 total that have completed 2 modules or 3 modules. They just have not finished, but everybody else has done.
Nice.
And I had a huge celebration for the kids that were done by the deadline that I gave them, which was the end of February.
I'm going to do 1 a week starting at the beginning of school year next year.
Oh,
I'm
that's
just
One
gonna
module.
Bust them out.
Yeah.
They
I'm gonna
take
say
so long
they do.
because you have to watch the video for the length that it says.
Yes.
Even if, like the pretest, even if they pass the pretest at 100%, they still have to go through the whole thing
Yeah.
timed out, and that's what takes forever. And you can't work on anything else on your computer while it's going, or it stops timing. And that was the difficulty we ran into.
There needs to be another option. Like this option and the old option we used are just not.
They're not
They're
feasible
not good.
for.
They're not, and they're not feasible for teenagers.
See, that was
Right.
my issue. Is I had a kid who repeatedly would let it play through, but then he wasn't watching the content, so then he would try to take the quiz. And what they do is they change all the answers
Yes.
to the quiz, like the same question, but they'll switch out different answers. So then
He's
thought-
clicking what
he's clicking what he thinks is the right answer, but then it's wrong again, and then it keeps going through and through. I
Yes,
think he took it
yes.
like 10 times, and
Yeah.
I was finally like, dude, you just need to sit down and just watch the video, please. You know. So. All right. Guiding questions for today. Let me pull up my notes here. Here we are. So. Just looking at where your kids are at this time, I know specifically, Tyler and I, our kids are in final projects. We're now at the point where you're using those skill sets, you're piecing together your final real material. But are there any learning objectives that you still find that kids are maybe struggling with, and how you might be able to collaborate to improve mastery? I think, honestly, I don't know if it's a learning objective, but I'm still having an issue with kids just not turning in work. And then that kind of brings back that mastery thing of the 50% mastery, when if you haven't come even close to remotely mastering it or turned in anything, that's where it kind of run into an issue. Because for me, this is the first time I've done 60-40 for weighted grades, because I used to always do total points. But they're still getting 50% of that 60% for mastery, that they're still, grade-wise, even if they haven't done much of anything, I'm running into issues on how you merit getting a kid passed along if you know they haven't mastered a single skill. And that's kind of what came back, I've noticed just with like posting grades last week, is it's like, okay, you're passing now, but I've only seen you like 5 or 6 times this semester and you haven't turned in a single project. So where do you go with that? Like that's one thing I think, I don't know that it's a learning objective they're struggling with, but I think just attendance is struggling, and trying to reel that in and get kids to be able to actually pass those mastery skills and turn in a project.
So what I found, and this was a challenge this year to do this, but it's really worked. So my afternoon class, I've had to lock up their phones every day, and their grades have shot through the roof compared to what they were first semester. And my incentive to them is when they get done and they've turned in a project and they've completed it. Like I'll flip through the packet, or I'll look online that what they've turned in and it looks like they've done it, then they can get their phone back. But there's kind of a time limit, it's like they can't get it back within like 15 minutes of me giving the project, Yeah. But if they get done 10 or 15 minutes early, then they may have their phone back. And that's been a huge incentive of turning things in. Huge incentive. But I haven't done it with the morning class because they weren't struggling as much. But now the afternoon class is surpassed with grades, so, but attendance always is going to be the issue of getting stuff in from those kids. Because once they're not here, and especially missing 2 to 3 hours, it's almost impossible to catch up. And even though I build in catch-up days, and I am one of those few teachers, and I don't expect all the teachers to do this, I have videos online, step by step, of me teaching it, because during COVID, that's what I did. And even then, they can't do it. And that's, so even when we put all these little things in place, that attendance is so important, regardless of what other things you have in place.
Yeah, I think I do like the incentive idea, and I know next year there's gonna be a lot of changes with, just say now they do have to put the phones away. Now you have to, I saw.
Who's doing that,
There's a
so.
law.
Yeah, I saw in the paper that Mooresville talked about how, like, it's a school-wide rule that kids' phones have to be in backpacks.
They just signed a law into place, and so that'll take effect in whatever July 1 or whatever, and then.
But it's gonna boil down to enforcing it. And it can't just always be on the teachers, because let me just tell you, it is difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very difficult for me to train these kids to lock up their phones, and it took so much time out of the day to watch them lock them up. And I made sure that the case was behind my desk, so they can't come and just get them. But like, they try to slip in empty phone cases. I had a child bring an old phone. I mean, so again.
Is this your flip phone?
Yeah. I've had to really weed out some things,
Yeah.
So that's been fun.
Yeah. I think that'll just, that for me, that's gonna be one that's gonna be interesting in terms of implementing for next year, just because so many kids are so used to having their
It'll be in
phones.
that classroom. Yep.
But that's kind of where I'm at, is we'll just kind of see where that goes,
Right.
and then just make adjustments for every year, I guess.
Yep.
I guess the other question I had for today was, how can we improve the CTE program to better prepare our students for chosen career paths? So with mine being audio production. I really think, and I just don't know the direction to go here, but I think continually what the state says, where it's radio, TV, you know, Tyler and I will tell you, that's not an industry that people are, excited to go into anymore.
Well, it doesn't exist.
doesn't
Radio,
exist.
TV doesn't exist.
Podcasts kind of took over.
Yeah,
didn't they?
I mean,
Like
it's multimedia.
Yeah.
It's new media. It's media. Like the radio, TV broadcasting does not exist in the form. This is when I was on a state committee when they were doing the pathways before they decided they didn't want any more input and just went behind closed doors to finish it. I kept telling them, you have to stop calling it radio, TV. We are not radio, TV anymore. Like, it's not. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And they continue to fund us at those low numbers because they say there aren't the jobs out there for it. Well, yeah, there are. You just aren't. You got to call it what it is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your kids.
Oh, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
they're not going to walk out the door and just know one program and
Oh,
make
no.
it. They've got to know 5 programs.
Right.
They've got to know video. They've got to know audio at some
Yeah,
point
and-
because they're going to be asked to do it.
And truthfully, our kids need to have 1 year with, like, let's say me learning these programs, and 1 year with you learning those programs. I mean, because it's all in one.
You need to know the full edit suite. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
It's like most people in the professional realm have some experience across a lot of things because you need to be able to say, I can work with this software, I can work with this software. It's the same thing with the audio stuff. I mean, every year I get a kid who's like, I only want to use FL Studio, or
Right.
I only use Logic, which is great. But employers are not looking for someone who is refusing to learn any other software. They're looking
Right.
for someone who
And-
knows other things.
And if we're talking career pathways and they're having to pick this pathway freshman year, then they need to start taking classes freshman year that go into this. So, you know, I'll just graphic design, let's just throw that out there because that's what I know best, right? So freshman year, they need to be taking an art class where they're learning how to sketch, learning how to draw, learning how to be very creative in their brain. Sophomore year, that's when they need to start using like Photoshop or Illustrator or something like that. They're kind of getting it under their belt. So by the time they come to me, they're ready to work. They're ready to do something with some of this now and put it into place. And by their senior year, they need to be able to work independently or transfer over to, you know, animation or something like that where they're, you know, picking that in path almost. You know, but it needs to be a process for all 4 years. We can't just wait till their senior year and say, okay, now they know enough to have completed their pathway. Absolutely not. And we can't teach it all in our timeline with one teacher with so many students.
Well,
I
like
mean,
the state for the stupid certifications, they have to pass three certifications. There's no way in 2 years, but even 1 year when I have to give the cert,
right,
that a kid could get 3 of them.
right.
Like there are professionals out there that can't pass it because they're looking for specific clicks, and that's not the way people professionally work.
Or teach.
No.
I mean, we can't teach to the test,
No.
you know.
And I think that's the issue is with like a lot of the certifications, like you said, it's just workflow. It's like it's one person's example of workflow.
Yeah.
But the way that you can get to this software has so many different options.
Oh,
You
yes.
can get around to different, like you can do the same task 1,000 different ways.
Yes.
So I think that's, with the state certifications, I think they make it almost a lofty goal that makes it almost impossible
Right.
for high schoolers who have
It is
maybe taken it.
impossible.
Yeah.
I've had one kid, and that's because we shared the kid.
Yes.
And she was
She was an amazing kid.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's it, one kid.
that's it.
That's
And
one
then
kid
you
over
got
that
the
10
credit
years.
because she was with you the senior year,
Yeah.
you know, and that's, you know, not, you know, sad for me because it's like, it is what it is. But the thing is, it takes more than one teacher and it takes more than 1 year,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, the thing is, Ball State doesn't even allow you to really fully work in Pro Tools or Adobe Premiere until your sophomore year, and then you're working in it for 3 more years to try and get to that place. And most people are not getting certified by
Right.
the end because it's still that difficult. And that we're talking about people who are in, you know, seminar level class coursework for
Right.
college, and it's still a lofty goal. And that's, I have an issue with if you're dealing with a kid who is trying to find a way to graduate.
Right.
You're making that mountain to the point that you could be a seasoned Everest person and you're not going to get to the top.
Well, and they put the pressure on the teacher, obviously, to, you know, create a student that can pass these things. But they don't allow us to set up our class in that way. Because, like my second year students, because they're mixed in with the first year students, I do not have the time to focus on them because I have first year students that can't do anything without me. And these second year students are the ones that I need to be able to work and train, and I don't have the time. And that's sad. We need to have something set up where, you know, second year students get us for, you know, a set amount of time individually, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we can't do that as one teacher. And especially if you have a class that has a high percentage of special needs, and I'm not saying special needs kids with IEPs, I'm saying kids that have needs that you have to be there for. They have problems reading, or they have problems understanding, or, you know, they don't always listen. And you need to remind them and keep them on task, you know, or problem issues, you know, with behavior. And so then you can't focus where you need to be. And it's, you know, it's sad for the second year kids because, you know, they've said, okay, this is what I really love. I want to keep doing this. And you've said, hey, yes, you can come back your second year because you've proven that you can do the work. And then now I feel like we've let them down, which is, you know,